Hey everyone, Happy New Year! Welcome to 2021, and this is week 19. We are going to use the song Unique for our song of the month for January. That's what we started off this year with, and I've had lots of students who have asked to hear that one again. So we're going to make that our starting song for 2021. So you can go back and listen to that. And then we're going to begin talking about timbre. Now, it looks kind of like timber, for those of you who remember that word from before, but it's pronounced timbre, and it means different sounds. And you can see on the screen, we're going to be talking about the different sounds of the orchestra, but there's also different sounds as far as our voices. So something that you need to know is that the voices of the women are typically divided between sopranos and altos. And then the voices for the men are divided between tenor and bass. Now, there is some crossover there. So I remember there was, in my high school choir, we had some boys that sang alto, and we had some girls that sang tenor. So there's some crossover, but typically male voices fit into tenor or bass, and then soprano and alto are for the women's voices. But as far as the orchestra, you may remember back in first grade, we talked about Peter and the Wolf, and the different instruments were the different characters in the story. So you're going to hear some of that in just a little bit. But let's look at the layout of the orchestra. So this is the seating arrangement of the orchestra. And at the very front is where the strings go. So we're going to go ahead and look at those. And you can go back and look at each individual instrument if you would like later, because when you press down on the instrument, you can hear a little excerpt of that instrument playing, so you can hear what it sounds like. But I was going to let you listen to this one because this one might sound familiar from that Peter and the Wolf. So listen to this. This is the violin. And you may remember that that was the theme of Peter in Peter and the Wolf. So then you have the viola and the cello and the basses, and that fills out the string section. Remember the string section, that's the easiest one to remember because it's the strings that make the sound. And remember, you need vibration in order to have a sound. Just like when you're speaking or when you're singing, if you'll put your hand right here and just go la la la, you'll be able to feel the vibration of your vocal cords. So that's the string family. And then we're going to move on to the woodwind family. And let's see, I think it was this one, the oboe. But we've got the clarinet, the oboe, the bassoon, the flutes, and the piccolo, which is like a very high flute. It's shorter, so it's going to have the higher sound. And that's also, these are played by vibration. But these are going to be kind of a different sound from each other. So let's listen to just a little bit of the flute sound. All right, so very light, and if you remember, that wasn't the theme from the story, but the bird had the part of the flute sound. But then this one is the correct theme from Peter and the Wolf. Let's see if you remember which character played this instrument or was represented by this instrument. And I believe that was the duck. So you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we talked about how that has kind of like sound. Sounds kind of like a quack quack of a duck. But that's the oboe. The bassoon, remember that was grandfather. So these all are, you have to blow air into them to make a sound. So they're a wind instrument. Originally they were made out of wood. So that's why they're the woodwind family. Now some of them are made out of metals. But back at that time, they were made out of wood. But remember that air has to go through it to make the sound. And then these, the oboe and the bassoon, have reeds that help to vibrate the sound. And we'll talk more about those another time. Today we're going to focus a lot on the brass. So let's go ahead and look at them. You've got the French horn, which let's see which theme this one's playing. And if you remember from Peter and the Wolf, that was the wolf. That was the part of the wolf. So those were the French horns. This is the trumpet. And we have the trombone. That's the one that has the long slide. And then you've got the tuba, which is the largest instrument. So it has the lowest sound. We're going to look a little bit more at brass in a little bit. So I'm going to move on to the last group, which is what? We've had strings, woodwind, brass, and now we have percussion. And percussion are the instruments, remember, that we strike, shake, or scrape. So if it can be hit, is how you play it, or you're scraping it, or you're shaking it, it's going to be in the percussion family. So most of the instruments we have in the music room that you've played before, if you were here before, then those are mostly going to be in the percussion family. Let's go ahead and move on. This is going to talk a little bit more about that word timbre with different sounds. So you can hear a little bit of the difference between the brass instruments in this excerpt from Quaver.
You won't find brass instruments up the front in the orchestra because they're so loud. If they sat at the front, you'd never hear anything else. They sit at the back on the right-hand side. Cool. And they all sound a little bit different. There's the tuba. Kind of deep and rich sound. Then there's the trombone. And then there's the trumpet. Cool. And there's a French horn. Each one has a different timbre or feeling to it, and the composer decides which sound he wants to use, depending on the feeling of his composition. But they sound best when they all play together in one big, stonking brass section. Listen to this. See how dramatic that sounded with the brass section. Take a bow. Take another bow. Take another bow. Now wait your mum. Woo!
All right, so we're going to do something here where you're going to get to choose which one. So in just a little bit, there's going to be an exit ticket you're going to take, and you're going to answer questions about these specific instruments, or whichever one you chose to do. So we've got the French horn, we have the trombone, we have the trumpet, and the tuba, which are all of the brass family, and you can choose one of those to watch to learn more about. Each of them are going to talk about the same thing, but you're going to hear a little bit more about, or hear that instrument specifically. So French horn, trombone, trumpet, tuba, and be listening carefully because the questions on the exit ticket today will come a large part from this video. All right, so you're going to go back and do that in just a little bit. Then you're going to click next. And this is just going to go over some of the information that was in the videos. You can click on each one of these to learn about the different parts of the instruments. And it's got a little bit more information than the video does because it talks about the specific parts. And that's not going to be on the quiz too much. So part of it is, but not all of it. So go ahead and watch that or go through this, and you can reveal all of them at the same time like this, or you can just go through and reveal each one individually like this. So whatever instrument you chose to watch the video of, when you get here, go ahead and look at the different parts of the instrument here. Okay, then we're going to click next. And you're going to listen to brass in other styles. So let's listen to this one. If you look right here, remember there's different styles of music. There's like, I don't know, 20-something different, there's probably more than that, styles of music. And some of them you listen to on the radio. Some of them you may have heard in music class or other places you've been. But let's go ahead and listen to this first one, which shows the brass family in each one of these, but in jazz. So let's listen. All right, so basically a solo in that one. And could you tell which instrument was playing that solo? That would be the trumpet that was playing that one. So that was a jazz style. Let's go ahead and look at this one. This is classical. And it says it's a fanfare, which fanfare was often like some way they would introduce a king or a queen or somebody important that was coming on onto the scene. So it'd be a bum ba dum bum bum ba dum bum bum, some kind of big opening. So this is called Fabulous Fanfare. Okay, so that time there wasn't a solo. It was the group playing together, the fanfare, so that's classical. Now we're going to move on to a little bit of disco. All right, so that gives you a little taste of disco, and see how the instruments were used a little differently in that to kind of enhance what was going on elsewhere in the piece. And then the last one is called Latin brass, so let's listen to a little bit of Latin. So kind of what Quaver was talking about, how the timbre, those different sounds, can be something that a composer would use if they weren't wanting to effectuate a certain mood or a certain feeling that they were wanting to get across. So that's brass and other styles. There's of course many other styles, as I mentioned, but just wanted to give you a little taste of how brass is used in different styles of music. So then you're going to come to the exit ticket, and it is actually, this is not the exit ticket, this is the checklist. So you're going to have an exit ticket that asks some questions about the videos, and that will be in here, and you'll do it just like we did in the first 9 weeks, where you're just going to click start, and then remember when you get to the orange submit button, you'll click submit, and then the green OK button. So that should still be there. So if you have any questions about that, make sure you message me. But for those of you who are at home, you're going to watch the video that you're watching now. Watch the Quaver video on timbre. We already did that, so you could check that off. Choose one instrument to learn more about on the playing techniques page. We talked about that, so make sure you do that. We already listened to the brass and other styles. You're going to complete the exit ticket, and then everything after the exit ticket is extra.